The big schlong wielder, the hot sauce pack menace, the man we called Aubrey Drake Graham owns a customized Boeing 767. He has a mansion named the Embassy, which honestly feels like foreshadowing. He's got a whiskey brand, a chicken chain, a stake in an Italian soccer club, and by some counts, over 50 registered business entities, which is either savvy entrepreneur or guy hiding from 49 ex-girlfriends. And I genuinely don't know which. So today we're answering the question the world didn't ask, but absolutely deserves. Could Drake run a country? Not would he vibe as a president. I mean, actually, if the UN handed him a nation tomorrow, keys included, would anything in his current empire survive contact with reality? Let's find out, and let's do it with actual math, because apparently that's the bit now. Let's start with the number everybody's really here for. Estimates on Drake's net worth range from about 250 million to 400 million dollars, depending on which website is guessing that day. That's music royalties, touring, OVO, Nocta, and a pile of investments he's probably forgot that he even made. Here's the buzzkill though. That number, huge as it sounds for one guy, is basically rounding error in nation running terms. A mid-sized city government spends more than that keeping the buses on time. Tuvalu, one of the smallest countries on Earth, population smaller than a Drake tour crowd, still needs tens of millions a year just to function. Drake could burn his entire fortune, sell the plane, sell the embassy, personally itself, and fund a small country for maybe 2 years before the lights start flickering on and people start asking hard questions about who approved the Air Drake line item. So let's be honest. Drake is rich on a very successful guy scale, not a controls an entire landmass scale. Compared to an actual sovereign wealth fund, this is a lemonade stand next to a Federal Reserve. But money isn't the only currency here. Running an entertainment empire and running a country actually share more DNA than you think. So let's give the man his flowers before we take him back. First, brand management. This is Drake's superpower, full stop. 2 decades of the OVO owl showing up on hoodies, sneakers, a record label, cologne. People see that owl and know exactly what they're getting. The same way you know exactly what you're getting when a Drake song has a guest verse from a rapper who's clearly just there for the check. Countries need that too. Tourism, trade, soft power. It's all just browning with better security details. A guy this good at procession management could genuinely crush to make a world us part of the job. Second, regional loyalty. Drake didn't just become famous, he became Toronto's unofficial marketing department for free for 20 years. Governments spend fortunes on tourism boards trying to do what one guy did by mentioning the six in enough songs. That's a real, useful, borderline unfair skill for a head of state. Third, diversified holdings, chicken chain, esports team, a production company, a soccer state. The man thinks in portfolios, not paychecks, which matters because plenty of countries collapse, specifically because they bet everything on one export, like oil or tourism, or in Drake's case, apparently drama. Fourth, legal structuring. Reportedly, around 50 separate LLCs, which lawyers say is just normal rich person liability protection and not, as it sounds, it is an elaborate plot. Still, knowing how to compartmentalize risk across dozens of moving parts is genuinely useful when you're suddenly in charge of a government with 100 departments that can each personally ruin your week. Four for four. Drake, surprisingly, would be pretty good at the vibes portion of running a country. Now, here's the part where the resume goes completely blank coalition governance. Drake is the final decision maker at OVO. Nobody's telling him no. Actual governments are the opposite a non stop group project with people who hate each other and cannot be fired. There is no data point in his career for how does Drake behave in a room where he doesn't automatically win, because his entire career has been engineered to make sure that room never existed. Monetary policy, interest rates, currency stability, sovereign debt, generally one of the most technical jobs that exist. And being great at negotiating a record deal prepares you for exactly none of it. This isn't a diss track, it's just true of literally any celebrity walking into the job cold. Defense and foreign policy. Nothing about a music and hot chicken empire stimulates a border dispute or a hostage negotiation. This is probably the biggest gap, and probably arguably the one where I'll figure it out gets people actually hurt. Accountability. Now, as a business owner, Drake mostly answers to himself and his own shareholders. As a head of state, you answer to courts, a free press, term limits, and voters who can fire you, which, for a guy whose entire career runs on Final Cut and Final Say, might be the single hardest adjustment of all. So, being fair about it, Drake shows up with real strength in image, identity, and organizing a portfolio, and basically zero preparation for the technical adversarial. People are allowed to disagree with you, side of the job, which, to be fair, describes most famous people. The real question isn't, is Drake qualified? It's how does he stack up against the actual celebrities who've tried this? Because this has actually happened multiple times, and the results are a genuinely mixed bag, which is a nice way of saying some of it went about as well as you'd expect from a guy whose main qualification was being recognizable. Now, some celebrity to politics jumps have gone exactly as badly as the headlines predicted. Others have gone shockingly well. A comedian who ran an entertainment company got elected, and then when an actual war started, turned out to be an unexpectedly serious wartime leader. Precisely because the communication instincts mattered more than anyone who gave him credit for, a former actor became one of the more consequential presidents of the 20th century, mostly by being extremely good on camera and letting the policy nerds handle the spreadsheets. Now, the pattern is consistent. The entertainers who actually pulled this off didn't try to personally become economists overnight. They did the good parts. They were already good at talking to people, managing the vibe, staying calm on camera, and handling the terrifying technical stuff to people who actually went to school for it. Which, if we're drafting a hypothetical Drake cabinet, is at basically the blueprint. And yes, we're doing the hypothetical cabinet. Tourism and cultural diplomacy. Now, he's got this locked down. He already did it for free for an entire city. Crisis communication, probably solid. 2 decades of managing his own narrative through. Now, let's say a lot of narrative managing situations. Economic policy. Now, that's a hard pass. Immediately hire the most boring, most competent economists available and do not let him near the interest rate button, the same way he personally doesn't engineer his own beats. Where the whole thing falls apart fast is losing gracefully. An entire music career is built on control, final say, final cut, brand always on message. Democracy is the opposite of that. It's losing votes in public, getting criticized by people you legally cannot fire, and occasionally getting told no by a judge. That gap between running an empire and running a country doesn't close no matter how big the net worth gets. So could Drake run a country? Financially, not solo, not remotely even close. Operationally, genuinely strong on the brand and identity, genuinely weak on economics, defense, and getting along with people who just won't agree with them. Historically, the celebrities who actually pulled this off did it by knowing exactly what to delegate, not by assuming fame equals competence. So the real answer isn't yes or no. It's only with an extremely good cabinet, and only if he's self-aware enough to know not to film himself with his pee-pee out. So could Drake run a country? No.